Good morning, everybody. So, as was said, I'm here to talk about the dawn of AI agents. The reason I want to talk about this is because every 2 days or so we hear some explosive quote about why AI is definitely going to kill SaaS. And I basically believe it. This is a quote from Demis from DeepMind who said, we're going to look back and see AI agents as the most transformative thing in technology. He's not alone. In fact, every single day, somebody has some new shit to say about basically AI agents are going to be really, really big. And my request is, can we just chill and say something practical? What do we actually want to do about this information? The first thing I would really advise you on is, this is happening whether you like it or not, right? It is not if, it is happening. It's not when is it happening, it's happening right now, okay? This is an adapt or die moment for every single software company. It's happening right in front of us. And we have two choices, right? If you or your company successfully builds an AI agent and it becomes your future, you will probably add an entire zero or two to your entire market cap, right? You'll be the category leader, you'll raise all the money you want, and if you fail, you'll die. So whatever motivates you, I have an option for you. If the fear of death is what you're into, please move to AI. If loads of money is what motivates you, you should probably move to AI. The main point is you should move to AI. But what should we be practically doing? Well, this is what I'm going to talk about this morning. What does it actually look like? Here's the kind of overview of what we'll discuss. So the first thing to work out is, in this move to an agentic product, how ambitious can we be, right? And there are lots of different ways to build an AI product. You can do something that simply helps humans do the job they're already doing. Or you can build something that helps humans do a chunk of their job, or you can replace the entire job. Now, replacing an entire job is very difficult. Augmenting an existing behavior is quite easy. The question is, if the most extreme version is possible, you have no future doing a little thing. You have to be as ambitious as you can be, right? So the question is often, how much can we do and where do we draw the line? So here's an example of a typical job that people do, right? So in this case, this is the checking in for a meeting, taking notes, summarizing the notes, assigning the next steps, everything in that space. You might be familiar with Google Calendar, Asana, Jira, Linear, whatever your sort of flow is. And what you realize when you say, hey, how would we apply agentic software to this? Well, the first thing to realize is there are a lot of different products here, right? You have Google Calendar, Google Docs, Zoom, Gong, Granola, Slack, email, right? Are you really going to replace all them? Well, we don't know, right? What's interesting is they're all trying to replace each other anyway, right? Every single one of these products is trying to merge together. Gong is already note-taking. Calendar apps are already building note-taking apps. It's already happening. And the challenge for you is to work out how much can you actually build. So, one of my favorite quotes, this idea is what's called convergence, right? This idea that products are going to merge. Tim Cook once said, look, you can converge a toaster and a fridge, but you're going to get a weird product, right? And I think that's roughly true, right? You will get a weird product if you mix two totally unrelated things together. Steve Jobs' version of it was, convergence means your television's going to make toast. And again, these things don't really make sense. But it does make sense for a calendar app probably to also take notes. It's the logical next step. So the biggest question you have to ask yourself about your product is, where do you want to draw the line? How much work can you do that is sufficiently ambitious so that you have a bright future, but also that is still feasible to do? Because the longer you stretch this out, the more impossible the product gets to build. Generally speaking, my advice on this is, if there's a fundamentally different buyer, you should probably stop. If there's different levels of data access or integrations required, you should probably stop. If you would need an entirely different brand to go to market, you should probably stop. Or in general, if you're bumping into a product everyone loves, you should probably stop, because it's going to be harder to replace that. So that's all about ambition, is understanding exactly how big are we going to go. So if you do expense tracking, do you want to go all the way to accounting, or do you want to stop at cost analysis or whatever, right? That's the sort of decisions you'll make. The next thing is to work out, if you know what you're going to do you understand the job well enough? And I think most of the failures I see in AI are people trying to automate things they actually don't fundamentally understand, which sounds ridiculous, but it is actually true. There's a Mark Twain quote I love who says, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble, it's what you know for sure that just isn't true. And a classic example we see, so a bit of background, I should have said this at the start. My company, we make help desk software, it's called Intercom. For the last 2 years, our primary focus has been an AI agent that does customer service. It's doing about 1 million resolutions. It's the newest feature of our country, of our company, and probably our country too. But yeah, so one of the things we see when a lot of new entrants come and say, we're going to build one just like Finn, and Finn is the name of our product, they assume that customer service looks like this. They assume it's all well-formed, really easy to understand queries that are totally parsable, where everyone's provided conveniently all the information up front. And immediately they say, oh, well, this is cool. We can classify, we can tag, we can search for answers, we can use AI for all this. And it never works when they put it live, because real customer support looks like this. It's just like, this shit's broken. And you're like, sorry, what's broken? You have to disambiguate. You have to clarify. You have to know when to escalate, why to escalate. You have to know the context of the user. Who are they? What are they doing in your product? So when they say this shit's broken, you should know who they are and what's broken, right? It's a hard thing to do. And similarly, a lot of people say, oh, well, you have a customer support strategy. Cool. Like, so they say, right, we're going to codify this. So I presume you have a lovely document somewhere, and we'll just ingest that into our agent, and everything will be fine. Again, these things don't exist. When you go looking for these things, what you get is something like this, right? Like, if you're ever going to question about this, talk to Dave or something like that. That's the strategy. So you have to make support work in a real messy world. The real world is extremely messy. It's very easy to fantasize about a really simple problem and then solve it. The only problem is that that problem doesn't exist in the real world. The real world is real messy. So what does CS actually look like? Well, here's just a quick example of things we have to do to make our AI agent work. We converse back and forth with the customer. We disambiguate. We find the right type of question in terms of abstraction. We have to sympathize when that's appropriate. We then search. We investigate. We run tasks, issue the refund. We validate. We authenticate. We have to then summarize. And we have to then ultimately hand over to human or close the issue. All of that's really messy. It's not, like when people talk about thin wrappers in AI, they're not talking about this. They're talking about single shots out to OpenAI or whatever. This is really hard. Like, and building a system like this is what it takes to actually nail a problem that you might think of as so simple as customer service, right? It is really, really complicated. And it's useful when, in all your AI experiments, I encourage you to look back and ask yourself, why did AI fail before? Because it probably did. AI is not new. It's just good now. But AI has always been failing, and it fails because data is unstructured, the problem's badly defined, it doesn't have the right permissions or integrations. And you have to then ask yourself, are any of these problems solved today? So like, banks refuse to adopt AI because they don't trust it. Has that actually changed? You have to ask yourself that before you go and build the AI for banks. Because if it hasn't changed, you're going to fail. You'll fail with fancier fucking buttons and stuff, but you're going to fail. Whereas in CS, it really did change. We were able to reduce the training. We were able to have good conversations, et cetera. All of that's easy now. Like when we look back at the old chatbots, they were terrible. And genuinely, they didn't work. You see like number 3 here, PayPal. Like someone's like, I got scammed. And PayPal's like, great. Like that happens because it does not know how to converse, right? But these are all real problems that used to exist. But thankfully, they're all gone now, which is good. But that's why, so I really encourage you, before you go and say AI to the max, make sure that you still have a future here. Make sure that enough things have changed. One big trade-off you're going to deal with is basically how agentic do you want to be and how deterministic do you want to be. Everyone wants predictable software so it won't go rogue, but everyone also wants the AI to do everything. You don't get both, right? It's very, very hard to build a product that is agentic, as in independently acting, controllable, as in you can scope what it does, and reliable, as in it'll keep behaving. We publish a lot of material on this exact, like, sort of three-sided trade-off. If you're really interested in this angle of things, I encourage you to read our blog. By the way, it's the fin.ai research blog. That's where we share all of our learnings on this. But generally speaking, it's really difficult to build an agent that is all three, okay? You have to sacrifice somewhere. You either don't get full control, you don't get full reliability, or you have to scope in the agency somewhere, okay? Now, as it turns out, by the way, for those of you who are managers, you're probably familiar with this problem, because humans also can have this problem too. Humans can be pretty low agency, right? Humans can be also pretty unreliable. We all know these geniuses who show up one day and are shit the next day. And then humans can also be entirely uncontrollable. They can be this maverick type character. So it's worth saying, in all your experiments, don't ever hold AI to a standard higher than you'd hold the existing human to, because ultimately, you should be happy if you can replace the human. So the reason reliability really matters, and I have to make this point clearly, is Like if you take, say, in this case, we're going to say, we're going to do expense tracking in this workflow. And you see the reliability of every one of these components is like 99% or 98%. But if you're actually intending to nail that workflow end to end, the reliability comes all the way down to 85%, which means that's actually not that reliable. And therefore, it's scary. So this is why you have to obsess about making sure your product is like 99.99% reliable for everything, every single step in your workflow, because the unreliability will compound. The challenge here you'll see is that it can be extremely easy to make a cool demo and extremely hard to make a reliable product. And you'll sort of see, like what I break down in the chart here is like, within a few weeks you can have something cool. It might take you years to get to general availability. There is like a huge crevice between like what we would consider to be works once for a screen recording and I can put this live to millions of users. Finn faces hundreds of millions of users all the time. If it's wrong 0.01% of the time, that's a big problem. That's a big amount of numbers. So you have to be really careful. Everyone likes to be really ambitious, but you also have to sort of understand the more you do, the harder it is to perform. There's one marketing trap people fall into here, which is they have an amazing product idea, and they start to try and build it, and they look at their progress, and they're like, geez, we're making great time here. We could have this live in 6 months. And somewhere along the way, they decide to launch their product and tell everyone. And they might even raise some money. And then it all goes wrong because the progress starts to slow because they realize they're nowhere near where they thought they'd be. And now they've got this big, what I would call like a marketing overhang, a gap between what they can do and what they've promised the market. Now, there's one company that's exactly in this mode right now, unfortunately, which is Apple Intelligence. This is exactly where they are. They've promised the Earth, Moon, Sun, and stars, and they're now saying 2026, maybe early 27, because it's very, very hard. The public are noticing, and like you sort of see people, it's now become a kind of a running joke because they've promised so much, and they haven't delivered any of it. And as a result, they're coming out with all these delays and apologies. So just two more quick things. Agent architecture is a big choice you'll make. You've basically two decisions to make. It's basically which models and what agent are you going to build. An agent is just models, instructions, and the tools. It's like basically what are you running it on, what permissions and access do you give it, and what are you telling it to do? How are you prompting it ultimately, right? And the decisions there are like, with models you have a choice of the fast one, the cheap one, the easy to access one, the open source one. With instructions, it's all about how you prompt. How specific can you be while being general enough, while not breaking your sort of your agency, if you like. And with tools, it's how hard is it to integrate your agent? Do you have to bring 10 people on site to plug in every single API, or is it a single-click install? The other choice you'll make a lot is like, can you do a single agent, or do you have to break your product into different agents? One will verify expenses, one will issue reports, one will validate whether or not you have permission to see the report. Do you break it into different agents, or do you do it all in one? Generally speaking, you should try and do one until it breaks, and then you should move to multi. But yeah, there's a lot of choices to be made there. And then the last piece I'd say, and this is where people, I think there's a lot of great agents out there in the market right now. The challenge is like launching a product is just the beginning. It is literally the opening of your sort of gambit in the market. And if your product does or doesn't work, that's what will decide your fate, right? Reality bats last. Like, so whatever it worked in your little tests, in your little evaluation suite, great. But your customers will decide whether or not this thing is any use. And so ultimately you have this question of does it work? And how do we make it better? So one thing you're going to find yourself needing to build when you launch an agent is, and this is true, whether it's a coding tool, whether it's like Lovable, whether it's like Finn, is like you need to help your customers understand, is this working and how can I make it better? So every agent has some version of this. Analyze if it's working, give it new instructions, test if the instructions work, and put it live again and see how it performs. That's what you have to actually build. This is like the beginning of your agent platform, if you like. You need to let your customers control their agent. And we've been working on this for ages with Intercom. We've built optimization engines that do things like, show the customer how well it works, where it's broken. We have to kind of partner with them, which occasionally means showing them results that don't make us look good. But that's how you win trust. The other stuff you have to ask yourself when you go live is like, who actually uses your product? Like, who owns the agent? Because there'll be new job titles created in this whole AI era. Like, the frontline customer support rep might be the new AI agent owner, or possibly might not. Maybe it's the manager. Maybe it's the manager's manager. your buyer has almost certainly changed when you move to AI. You're going up the org chart at least once. The other question is, what are the new metrics? So for ages, customer support was all about average handling time, time to first response. Both of those are 0 in an agent world, 0. So those metrics make no sense anymore. The question is maybe accuracy, maybe reliability, maybe quality of resolution. That's what actually matters in the new world. And you have to realize that all of this changes, which means all of your customers' reports and how they think about their job changes. It's not a small transition. The org chart changes. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going to do all the accountancy, then what happens to the accountancy team? Or if you're going to do all the customer support, what is the future of the customer support team? So, whatever the org chart was is probably not what it will be in the future. And there'll be new roles created, the people who manage the agent, and old roles will shrink, which is like tier 1 frontline support will go away over time. This is all happening. And the last thing you need to do, and this is hard, is you have to explain all this to the market, right? So we publish so much material trying to explain the wild and crazy world that we're in, that we've been on this journey moving to AI for so long, and and we have to help our customers take the single smallest step into the future, which usually looks like, let's put Fin live. Fin does about 60% of your frontline support. Immediately, they're happy with that. Then we say, like, let's do some more. Let's add some tasks. Whatever might make sense. But generally speaking, you have to do a good job helping your customers understand this future. They're not like us. They don't spend all day reading Hacker News or Product Hunt or looking at cool tools. They actually need to be helped. So that's kind of the overview of the journey we've been on to move from being an old school SaaS company to a very future-facing AI agent company. I'll just leave you with some closing thoughts. If you're building an agent, be as ambitious as you can, but no more. You have to understand, but also really deeply respect the job that you think you're agentifying. And then sharpen your scope to build something that's definitely valuable, but it also has to be doable. Don't end up in a position where you're telling a story on your marketing page that your team don't know if they can build. You also have to make sure you build a platform around the agent so that people can actually tune it and make it their own. And then lastly, make sure you explain the transformation that your customers have to go through. And then, however, if you're not building one, but you're out there buying one, I would just say, make sure that you can see the reliability, the quality. Ask them how they test the agent, when they test the agent, if they test the agent. Run comparisons if you're considering 2 or 3 different products. Bake them off against each other, see who performs best on your data. And lastly, just don't underestimate the big organizational transform you'll go through. But also, you have to go through it. If your competitors move to a world where they can provide 0-second instant accurate support, and you don't, they will outperform you. So there's not really a choice here. It's a question of who does it first and who does it best. By the way, this shift has to happen across your entire company. And what I mean by that is, it's not just in my world, it's not just customer service. How you design and build software changes in this new world, right? Design used to be the starting point in every software project. Now AI is. The first thing you have to do in software is work out, can it be done with AI? And then if it can, what's the right design? So it's very different to the old world where you had all this scoping and evaluation and product management type stuff. The first biggest challenge you have is, what is the most ambitious thing we can do? And the only people who can answer that will be your AI team. But it doesn't stop there. Your product and its differentiators will change. We used to compete really well on UI. Intercom made some of the nicest UI. Now no one uses it because the agent does all the work. So our entire competitive differentiation is gone, except for we now have to compete with Fin and its quality, right? Your buyer changes. So whoever you're selling into, it's almost always, if you're selling a product that replaces someone's job, they're probably not going to buy it. Their manager will. That's just the reality of how AI happens. Your sales team have to learn how to sell AI. Your pricing should probably change. So with Fin, we sell based on outcome. So we charge 99 cents when we do the job. We charge 0 when we don't do the job, which means we better do the job, right? But a lot of products are going to have to shift to this outcome-based pricing model. It is the only way. But everything else changes, right? Including the expectations of your customers. People will expect agents. People will want support that's as good as ChatGPT. They will ultimately pick the products that get it. I'll just leave on this. I think this is both Intercom's 15 years old, basically. And this is simultaneously the scariest time because I spent my entire career working on something that looks like it might not matter anymore. and that's kind of terrifying. But then on the other side, when we look at Finn and the progress of the AI stuff, it's also the most exciting time in software. And that's weird that both of those things can be true. You can literally have like the potential death of something you spent over a decade of your life working on, because ultimately all that work is going to go away. And by the way, it's happening to all of you, and if you don't agree, you're just trying to cope. But if you can find your AI calling, find the next version of your company, refound your startup, refound your company around AI, it's a very exciting time, and I wish you the best in it all. I'm Traynor from Finn. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.